And canter.
Still working on the canter with Samba. I noticed that sometimes I have to ask her several times to canter, but she's not freaking out when I say canter. In the past, she's heard that word and she just takes off like a gazelle racing around at trot. Now I'm asking her repeatedly for canter, and she's not freaking out. In fact, she kind of slows down to organize herself.
Canter.
It might take her a little bit to get into it, but she's doing it in a calm way.
Good girl.
And didn't toss her head too much that time.
Yeah. Canter.
I'm trying to bring up my energy in just the minimum amount of way in order to ask her to canter. So she doesn't ignore me, but I don't put too much pressure on her either. I only get a canter from her once in each direction before we start riding. I don't want to keep drilling and drilling and asking, because she tends to get worse and worse when I do that. If she only does it once, she won't worry about it. I know you can't see her head too well, but she didn't throw her head on that attempt. That was a really good one right there. This is a change of bend and direction at the walk. She's doing it very easily and nicely now. I'm keeping her on a very small circle here, so I have to keep asking her for turn in. Turn in, turn in, turn in, which helps her to get more round and more obedient. And then I'm slowly asking her to move out just a little bit to expand the circle. And as I ask her to move out, she offers a little trot. So I let her go at that. Now when we come around, I'm going to ask her for move out again. The camera kind of loses me for a second. And she does a little shoulder in at trot. That really felt good. I liked it. We're also still working on our halt. And I've been asking her to stop, and I'm really letting go. And ooh,
a little better there.
She's getting better at squaring up her feet and stopping in a halt. Her feet weren't quite square there. And I'm not obsessing or anything. But when I totally let go, she will just completely stop.
Because she
now
thinks
she backed
you're getting
up a little bit there and got her feet out of whack. But she totally stops when I drop the reins. And she's usually very immobile, so that's good. So we're going to do a little turn in, get back over there toward the bucket, and start making circles again. She does a real nice turn in here. This is the best halt ever.
Square perfect. She just moved a foot, back leg though.
You mentioned last time that she squares up when I let go, so I've been experimenting with letting go. And that was a nice square halt. Now she fidgets a little bit and takes a little bit of a step back, but that was a real nice stop too. She's been a little reluctant to do a nice move out. You know, when I first get on her, she's kind of a basket case. She just wants to skitter around with her nose in the air and not pay attention to me. So I'm just schooling her a little bit there, making her do a lot of move out and turn in, more move out, kind of getting her to slow down when she does it. But I still don't have the feeling of when her feet are under me. There, I had to ask my husband to see whether her feet had squared up, and they did not. So here we're going to trot a little bit in a circle. I want to start working toward doing changes of bend at the trot. And I'm thinking of the tempo. I do notice when she speeds up and loses her balance a little bit. Seems like it's always right there in that spot where she goes faster. And I didn't even notice it when I was riding her, but she has the most amazing square halt here. See, I don't have the feeling of that yet. I'm totally oblivious. We're going to trot a little bit more. And then when we come around the next time, I'm going to try to change direction with her toward the other bucket. But it doesn't turn out so well. I think I neglected to give her that moment of straightness. I was telling her, like, turn right, turn okay, turn left. So we walked through one time here to practice. Okay, so that's the pattern. Now we're going to try to do it at the trot. And I'm giving her a little bit of move out there. And I can feel her moving out as she's trotting. We're going to do this again. A little bit of move out there. Yeah. Now she is kind of making a wide circle, though. It's not a tiny circle. And we're going to come back in the other direction here and make a bend that way. There, she put her head down. We're just going to do a little bit more trot here. And lately I've been noticing how far apart my hands are. And I've read where your hands are only supposed to be a bit width apart. Like, the width of the horse's mouth. And I notice she does seem steadier. She seems to like it when I have my hands closer together. I just don't do that very consistently yet. Now we're checking in on Prairie. And I've been doing like 10 or 15 minutes of groundwork with him every morning before riding him. And I'm really working on getting the upward arch under his neck. I'm really asking him to soften a lot and get his head in a bending position so he's stretching over his top line, he's stretching laterally, he's stepping under himself. He's really starting to get this. And when I ride him, I'm also asking him to soften. And I remember I did a lot of this with Samba about a year or so ago, and it really paid dividends. She really started to understand and reach down, and then she started to like it. Now he has a habit of boomeranging his neck around to the right, and I finally figured out he's just looking at me. That's all he's doing. He wants to look at me. So while I've got him halted here, I'm asking him to put his head in front of his shoulders. Right now I'm asking him to do some move out. So he was getting himself organized to do that. And he is starting to reach down when he walks. Now I noticed I was asking him for move out, but he was moving out in a circle. Now he's starting to move out in a straight line, and that's what I rewarded. I have no idea what my hands are doing there. They're all over the place. Now I'm moving him around the bucket and kind of alternating move out with turn in. I'm going to ask him for move out again. And all I have to do is just change where my upper body looks. I'm still asking him for move out. It's kind of a subtle thing, keeping his head closest to the bucket while still moving him out. There we stopped, and we're going to do something else. Now we're doing a turn in the other direction. And he's doing that great. And I'm changing again. I'm asking him for move out in the opposite direction, and he does great. Here's a halt, or what passes for a halt. And he softens, and he's kind of looking at me out of that right eye. So I ask him to put his head in front of his shoulders, and he does. I'm very happy with him. You wanted to see how the saddle looks on him, and this is it without padding. But first, I'm going to show you that his cinch is really not that tight. You thought maybe I was tightening it too much and it was pulling down the back of the saddle. I would probably pull this up one more hole before I start riding him, but I can easily get my whole hand under there. Now this is the saddle I folded a t-shirt and put under the back end of it, and I finished riding Prairie, so this is how it's going to look when it's settled down on his back and fully tightened. I think the back is lifted up maybe 1/4 of an inch by that t-shirt. I think the difference is pretty subtle.